Jimmy Butler and Dre have questions on what the heck are the Golden State Warriors doing. I think we all have those same questions. We're also going to talk about Tyler Herro missing 8 weeks. We're going to get to all that and more on today's Locked On NBA Game Night.
When that final buzzer rings, you know it's time for Locked On NBA Game Night. All the post-game reactions to every game across the league, every single night, with insights only the hosts at Locked On can provide. It's the true NBA fans' one stop for all the action. Every game, every night. It's Locked On NBA Game Night. Tipping off now.
Thank you for tuning in to Locked On NBA Game Night, where it's every game, every night. Even when there are no games, we're still here. I'm Haize, one of the hosts of Locked On Bulls. I'm joined by my co-host, Swipa, as I am every single Friday. He is one of the co-host of Locked On Nuggets. And today's episode is brought to you guys by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Download the app today. Swiper, man, we got a lot that we need to get into, man. It's been a lot of little odds and ends things going on before we get to the actual NBA season. Training camps open in about 9 to 10 days for most teams, but Jimmy Butler and Dre reportedly don't feel very settled in what's going on with the Golden State Warriors. Many people will know that the Warriors are kind of right now held up with the Jonathan Kaminga talks. They have free agents reportedly waiting to sign and Al Horford, Anthony Melton, Seth Curry. Malcolm Brogdon was one of those names listed as well, but he eventually signed with the Knicks. I guess just got tired of waiting for the Warriors. Swiper, how do you feel about Dre and Jimmy both kind of asking themselves, like, couple of days, well, a handful of days away from media day and training camps opening, what the heck is going on?
So as it stands, I'm looking on Basketball Reference. So this is the current contracts that are on the roster. Steph, Jimmy, Dre, Moses Moody, Buddy Hield, Brandon Podziemski, Trace Jackson Davis, Santos, Quentin Post. 9 players that I see that are on the roster, actually making money on the roster. Yo, I don't know if you saw, Jonathan Kaminga's agent was talking to 95.7 The Game, which is a very popular Golden State Warriors show, and they covered the 49ers, all the San Francisco teams. He essentially went on the radio show that is televised too, like you can look at it. Apparently, he said he wants a chance to start every night and finish every night. My dog, like, this situation for me is so like, what are we doing? And then we saw reports, some, just, how verified, but we saw reports that the Kings were trying to get in on him with Malik Monk. And I'm sitting here like, Steph Curry would do much better to have at this stage in his career another very good scoring guard at that level. That's that kind of athlete that can take pressure off of him. And Malik Monk, for me, that's like a no-brainer. And apparently they're willing to give draft compensation too. That's like a no-brainer. Jonathan Kaminga is a big bag of what ifs. It's like the Peter Griffin meme on when he basically like was, you could win this like this boat, or we can give you this box that might have a boat in it, but you don't know, you might get something better. And Peter's like, well, I could take the boat, but I want the box because there could be even something better than the box than the boat. My whole thing is with the Warriors is like they want something to come of this Jonathan Kaminga situation that I think is very unrealistic. He doesn't want to be there under the tenure, especially on the money that they're offering him. He doesn't want to give them a team option on his money. He would rather, at this point in time, purportedly, be able to sign basically the qualifying offer, which is for people that don't understand, when we're in restricted free agency, you can sign a qualifying offer that essentially a 1-year deal includes a no-trade clause that you would bet on yourself in your last year. And then that way you can do what you want to do. You can play out that season, and then you'll be a free agent, an unrestricted free agent the very next season. Mm-hmm. In this iteration of the Warriors, they are not competing for a championship to close out Steph Curry's career, more than likely. But right now, they're going to be struggling to make the playoffs. We are 3 months over, like full 3 months over now into the NBA offseason, and we've been waiting for the Warriors to sign purportedly Al Horford and others to this roster, but they can't because they don't know what's happening with the Jonathan Kaminga situation. They are allowing for this 2-timeline Jonathan Kaminga contract fiasco to continue to have derelict impact on this team and them trying to get better with Jimmy Butler, Draymond Green, and Steph Curry wanting to try to win a title this next year. Everything that the front office could be doing to sabotage their own team, they are currently doing. And the fact that we're still here with Jonathan Kaminga, of course, Jimmy and Dre have questions. Jimmy just left Pat Riley off the basis of he felt like Pat Riley did not live up to the obligations or to the promises that Pat set for him in Miami. He then asked for a trade. He gets traded to Golden State. He plays extremely well with Golden State. They're one of the best teams in the league with Golden State. And maybe had they not really had some injuries to their unit, they could have maybe had a different performance in the next round, in the second round.
Mm-hmm.
But they don't have time to wait, Haize. And I think for me, watching this thing play out, and imagine being a Warriors fan and knowing you're at the last 2-3 years of Steph at most, more than likely, and you got to sit here and go through another summer of this 2-timeline nonsense, and you're allowing one player to hold up the development of the whole roster. I think that's malpractice by the Golden State front office.
Yeah, I mean, I could definitely understand the frustration from Dre and Jimmy. Like, Jimmy joined the Warriors with thoughts like that was his best chance to probably try to get a title and compete. And like you said, for what it's worth, after he got there, he played really well. They played really well together. When the time with him, Dre and Steph on the court was really promising. Steph gets hurt, things change. But you had an opportunity to add, like I for example, like I think it's a solid offseason for as old as the Warriors are as a team to add Brogdon, Horford, Melton, Seth Curry. Like, to add those players to this team would have been a really solid offseason for what we saw. It's not like Jonathan Kaminga was a huge part of the game plan. So like being able to add those players to what you had going on is solid. Not great, but it is solid. And then when you hear some of the trades that they've turned down for Jonathan Kaminga, like you said, the Malik Monk trade, to me is like, what more do you want at that point in time? Like, I don't understand what the Warriors want out of this, right? Because it's clear that you don't want Kaminga on your roster. You had an opportunity to replace him. It's not like Moses Moody is super old. Moses Moody's 27 years old. You had an opportunity to replace him with a 27-year-old scorer and shooter that could absolutely help your team out right now and get off this whole fiasco of the Jonathan Kaminga thing. You don't do that. Kaminga and his team offered a basically a pseudo qualifying offer to where it's a 1-year deal worth a little bit more than the qualifying offer. It helps him, keeps his bird rights. So they could still trade him. They don't want that. Then you turn around and offer him $25 million after it's clear you don't want him there. He doesn't want to stay there. It just seems like their aim in this is it's questionable. So yeah, the players sitting there should question it and what's going on. You get Steph like a couple of days ago talking about like he's confident that the Warriors can compete for a title. I'm glad that that's happening, but you can't do that with 9 guys on your roster. Can you go into training camp with only you have to get to the minimum by then, right?
Yeah, you do. And by the way, just full quote from Aaron Turner, who is Jonathan Kaminga's agent. This is from 95.7 The Game for everybody that's listening audibly. The player option to him is super important. JK is clearly the guy that needs to sacrifice here for this to work. Okay, so that's fine. He's passing up opportunities where they are saying, BJ Armstrong, the Kings assistant GM, made a strong comment to JK, like, we want you to be you. We don't want you to change a thing. Play your game. He can't do that fully in Golden State. And then you have other reports as well that have basically insinuated that the brain trust of Jimmy Butler and others, and Steph Curry, obviously, they have all spoken to Jonathan Kaminga. They want him to be a part of the team. They want to compete with Jonathan Kaminga. But as I said, if you're not going to pay Jonathan Kaminga real money and promise him a real role, he's at a stage in his career where he says, I don't want to commit to that. I will not commit to a situation that my money is not the way I want it to look, and my role is not going to be what it needs to be for me to get more money if I take a discount on the money. So for Jonathan, he's like, I got to do what I got to do. I got to take care of my career. I'm not in a situation I feel like to be able to compromise across the board. I want to be in a situation where I have flexibility to move forward. The Warriors feel differently, either on the numbers, either on his role. And so he's just like, all right, well, we're going to be here holding hands then this whole time. So I do think a qualifying offer eventually will get signed, but it's just unfortunate that it's taking this long for the team.
Yeah, I mean, it's unfortunate for the players, and especially getting this close to media day. Like, you should be able to focus on building chemistry with your teammates. You don't even know who's going to be on the team yet. So we'll continue to see how that's going to shake out for this team, and hopefully a resolution is found sooner rather than later, so everybody can kind of move on from this. But we're going to move on. Next up, we're going to be talking about Tyler Herro and the injury that he has to his foot and ankle, and what that means for the Miami Heat. But first, we got to get to a message from OpenPhone. If you're running a business, you know that every missed call is money left on the table. Think about the last time you had an urgent need, maybe for a plumber or a service provider. If the first person didn't answer, did you wait? Probably not. You moved on. That's why you need OpenPhone. OpenPhone is the #1 business phone system built to streamline and scale your customer communications, all from an app on your phone or your computer. OpenPhone lets me manage business calls and text from a single app. The shared inbox feature is a game changer. Your team can jump into any conversation instantly without missing a beat. And their AI agent handles after-hours calls, answers common questions, and captures leads so you never miss a customer. OpenPhone is offering our listeners 20% off your first 6 months at openphone.com/LockedOnNBA. That's OPENPHONE.com/LockedOnNBA. And if you have an existing number with another service, OpenPhone will port them over at no extra charge. OpenPhone, no missed calls, no missed customers. More Locked On Game Night coming up next. All right, so let's get into it, man. So it came out earlier today that Tyler Herro was going to have surgery that is going to leave him missing the start of the season. About an hour ago, we got more details on the timeline for that. So it's being listed at about 8 weeks that he's going to miss, which puts him about mid-ish November if he gets the surgery soon to be able to return. That's really not that much time, I think, when you put that in the framework. But how you feeling about it, Swipe?
Yeah, it's unfortunate. I thought he started off the year really well last year. He was one of my early season All NBA picks through the third of the season. The Heat are, I think they're obviously like they're a good team. Their roster right now, that's pretty interesting. They obviously, Khalil Ware getting him in the draft. I think that's going to be big for them. I'm excited to see like what this next iteration of Bam looks like, especially as he's continuing to improve as a floor spacer to play like at that 4 position to play with Khalil Ware. And then Andrew Wiggins, obviously, will he or will he not be there? Davion Mitchell. But the biggest thing that is kind of hurting here, they're probably going to start Duncan Robinson, I would imagine, in his slot, or they want to move Andrew Wiggins to go bigger and then move him to the 2 and then move Jovic into the starting lineup. I would more likely want to start Duncan there. They don't have a lot of point guards. I think that's going to be the real issue for them. It's like, okay, like what do they do? Terry Rozier, Davion Mitchell is kind of a tweener. He can play combo guard. He can start at the point guard if need be. But they don't really have like on-ball playmakers that are good scorers, that are good decision makers, and especially like efficient and that make a lot of mistakes. And Terry Rozier, he's just one of those players that he has such a bad season last year that it's just you don't have any confidence in him going forward right now. But maybe he gets it back. But Tyler not being there, he's their best offensive player, like by far. And he's their shot creator. He's their closer. He's their lead ball handler. Him not being there for the first, let's say month of the season at this point, that's definitely going to hurt them, obviously. And so you want him to get back healthy as soon as possible. They have a team that should be competing for a play-in spot. The starting lineup of Tyler Herro, Davion Mitchell, Andrew Wiggins, Khalil Ware, Bam Adebayo, and then you have a rotation with Duncan Robinson, Haywood Highsmith. Then obviously you're adding like, Alec Burks, like Larson and all of them. Like they're not Jaime Jaquez Jr. as well. They're not loaded, but they should be competing roughly for a playoff spot in the Eastern Conference. Because once you get past a certain level in the East, I still think the Pacers and the Hawks and maybe the Raptors are probably going to end up being better than them. But you just want to see them compete, especially given where Bam is in his career. So definitely hope he gets back soon. This is a big deal for that team. But again, he comes back, he's healthy, then he can get back to being 100% and then get back to what he's playing the way he was prior to the year ending.
Yeah, Bam starting the season off at the 4 while Khalil Ware is going to be the 5 is going to be, fun to see how Bam steps up offense, especially now with Tyler Herro out. Norman Powell is another interesting wrinkle to that team. And he's been in the situation before where he's had to pick up a scoring load for players missing time. It's just, I don't know what they're going to do with their backcourt. Like you said, I'd probably go start Davion Mitchell. I know it's not the most seamless thing there, but have him and Norman Powell and Wiggins at the 3 maybe is what you're going to do there. I guess we'll see. I mean, they did draft Kasparas Jokic, but with Eric Spoelstra, I don't expect him to have a big role on that team, even if he does get some minutes to start off with. But he's probably they're going to try to mold him to be their point guard of the future. So the balance of the roster is going to be the thing to watch out here for. But luckily, the Miami Heat have one of the best coaches in the NBA, and that's Eric Spoelstra. And that's who I do trust to figure this thing out, is Eric Spoelstra, to figure out how to keep the team afloat. If it is only to the end or to the middle or the end of November, they got more than enough to still stay afloat in the Eastern Conference. Now, the difficult part about it, though, is 5 of their first 6 games are against playoff teams from last year, and 11 of their first 15 are against playoff teams from last year. So they have a difficult start of the schedule there, but we've seen teams overcome that before. So,
yeah, we'll see. I think the situation in Miami has just been one that's been kind of overflowing for a while. Miami fans know they have a talent deficit. They don't have a roster that can compete at the highest level. They also are not bad enough to get high quality draft picks every single year. They haven't, Jaime Jaquez Jr., he wasn't good last year, but his rookie year, because of the lack of talent they've had in the room, they were beyond excited for that rookie season. And then Khalil Ware, I think, had a good rookie season last year. But that's their hopes. Like, everything they do right now is, it feels like they're trying to walk this line of being competitive, not falling all the way to the bottom of the Eastern Conference.
Mm-hmm.
They have veterans, Wiggins, Adebayo, Tyler Herro. I think those are, and Haywood Highsmith, especially, in Duncan Robinson. They got 5 legitimately very deep in their NBA careers, but still very good veteran players on their roster. And then everything else is kind of in between, super young, or just trying to figure out their place in the league a little bit. I just don't think that team is really built to do much. Tyler Herro not being there, maybe this could be the launch into, they just need a tank, and you just kind of got to tank the season and tank the value. The problem is that Bam is in the prime of his career, and they're trying not to waste it. He definitely doesn't want to waste time being there. He's 28 years old. So, we'll see. We'll see what happens, man. But I don't really know what to expect from this team at all this year.
Yeah, I mean, the Heat are one of those teams in the Eastern Conference. You look at the Eastern Conference, you got, of course, the Cavs, the Knicks, the Pistons, the Orlando Magic, maybe the Atlanta Hawks. I even still think the Boston Celtics are going to be a pretty solid team. But, everybody other than that is all kind of fighting and jockeying over the same positions. I wouldn't be surprised if, from the 6th or 7th seed on to the 10th seed, they'll probably be separated by, maybe 5.5, 6 games. So, I mean, they can go anywhere in the spectrum between that. It really depends on how some things come together. Khalil Ware taking a step in year 2. Jovic averaged over 10 points per game last year. Like I said, Jaime Jaquez didn't necessarily follow up his rookie year the way that people expected, but I think, sophomore slumps could be a thing at times. So they got talent on this team. It just, how it comes together is going to be the thing. And then I think an extra wrinkle in this also is that now, without having Tyler Herro and Norman Powell in a training camp together, how much does them playing as a backcourt together? How long is it going to take them to get over that hump once Tyler Herro gets back? So it could be another thing that they have to kind of figure out on the way there. But I mean, Eastern Conference, you just never know how things can go. You can be one of the bottom 4 teams. You can be a top 10 team. It's the wave that can go in the Eastern Conference could change day in and day out.
Yeah, we'll see. Like I said, I don't have a lot of hopes for them. We'll see what happens with them. The Eastern Conference with, the Indiana Pacers, the Milwaukee Bucks, the New York Knicks, the Magic, the Cleveland Cavaliers, the Hawks. I mean, really, once the Celtics, once you get past that level, it's really hard to figure out who exactly is going to be who in the NBA this year, upcoming for them. But I'm excited. I'm excited to see how, especially Khalil Ware continues to develop, and I think he can be a really good offensive player as a big. He's not like Derek Lively, but he definitely has some Derek Lively to him in terms of being above the rim play finisher, really good interior defender, but maybe even a better offensive scorer, offensive engine as time goes on. But like I said, it's just the way that conference is set up right now. And in Philadelphia, if Joel Embiid was healthy, if the team was healthy, if Paul George was healthy, they would be included in that upper tier part of the conference. But it seems like there's so many questions about like the Celtics. Like, what does it mean for them without Tatum? The Pacers, what does it mean for them without Tyrese Halliburton? The Sixers, what are they going to be? What is Joel Embiid going to be this year? And I think with the Heat is, do they have enough talent to be able to compete on a night in, night out basis? Or are they going to be in a similar situation where they're going to be battling like with the Chicago Bulls, basically, to figure out that last part in the plan? So, yeah, it's just a lot of questions around them.
Yeah, a lot of questions, and we will be here during the season to hopefully find those answers and discuss those. But next up, we're going to be talking about what are we looking forward to most coming up into the NBA season. But first, we got to get into a message from FanDuel. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love using FanDuel because it fits however you like to bet. Player props, building a same-game parlay, or even jumping in as the action unfolds. It makes every game more exciting, whether you're watching your team or just keeping an eye on your fantasy lineup. It's quick, easy, and the best way to add a little more energy to Sundays. So are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. More game night coming up next. All right, before we get out of here today, Swipe, the last topic of the day. What are you looking forward to with the NBA season?
Well, to start off with the easiest one, Luka Doncic and the LA Lakers. I think it's going to be a great storyline this year. How does Marcus Smart integrate himself as, I think, the starting two guard at some point? Figuring out how does DeAndre Ayton morph back into the version of himself that was a really productive high-end center in the league, where he was a no doubt surefire top 10 center in the league. Can he reclaim that kind of dominance? I think that watching Luka Doncic orchestrate that offense, seeing what LeBron James is going to be this year, seeing if he continues to pull off the miracle magic where he's a second team all NBA player, third team all NBA player going into his age 41 season, and then seeing what happens with obviously Jared Vanderbilt coming back from injury. Is he going to be better? Jackson Hayes, Dalton Knecht. The team isn't like loaded by any means, but with JJ Redick coaching it, with the top end talent they have, they will be very competitive. They will be, I think, a 50+ win team again next year. So it's just going to be fun, like seeing what exactly the story is going to be coming out of LA. Not like the narrative stuff, but truly like, what does Luka look like with a full off season, integrating himself into the LA culture, playing for the Lakers and playing high level basketball again, and him being able to make an MVP push. I think that's going to be a lot of fun to watch. And then seeing if DeAndre Ayton can reclaim a little bit of the jazz that made him what he was when he helped the Phoenix Suns go on a title run. So all the way around, I think the Lakers are going to be a great storyline.
Lakers are going to be a fun team to watch. I think looking at Luka and his Eurobasket run and just how much more engaged he was also defensively, like if he brings any of that over here to the NBA, very, very different game, but that does take stuff a bit further for him. So the Lakers are going to be a fun team to watch. To me, I already told you, my team that I'm looking out for is the Houston Rockets. I can't wait to see how this roster works together. Like what happens here, which young player steps up, how KD is for these young guys. Does Embiid Thompson also finally make that next step to his game that everybody sees in him that's there and that he can do. I'm going to be watching probably every Houston Rockets game this season. They're my league pass team, if we want to call it that. Like I'm going to be really engaged with the Houston Rockets have going on, because I think that's just an intriguing roster. Kevin Durant is in a place where I think, even at being 37 years old, like still a super efficient scorer at this point in time, still one of the top scorers in the league. To be able to add him to this team in the Houston Rockets with this many young pieces, the defensive ceiling that they have, I think the Rockets could be really special this year. It's still going to be a tall test to get over the OKC Thunder, but I think they're going to still be a fun team to watch. And that's the other thing, is like watching how the Thunder now operate from the place of, now you're the champions. You're the top dog. You're going to be the team that everybody's bringing their best to every single night. I just can't wait to see how this season goes for the OKC Thunder as well.
I think that the story, one of the more interesting stories I'm looking forward to is the Portland Trailblazers. They have added this like perfect blend of veterans with young players. If you look at their depth chart, Drew Holiday, Shaedon Sharpe, Toumani Camara, Denny Advia, Donovan Clingan, they have Scoot Henderson, Matisse Thybulle's still there. And then obviously Delano Banton, I don't know if actually still there anymore. And then obviously Jeremy Grant is still there as well. And then they added Hassan Yang. They still got Robert Williams. Like, that's a roster. They have like a lot of really good players. At some point, they probably will consolidate some of the talent they have. They don't have to do it this year, but that's something that they can look to see if they can get more asset accumulation. I think Donovan Clingan like is incredible. I think he is going to be one of the best bigs in the league sooner rather than later. He is such a defensive force. And so watching Drew Holiday and him go to work with second team all defense Tamani Kamara, and then having Denny Avdia, can he take an all-star step? Could he look like a really good player down the last half of the year? He looked like a different tier player the last half of the year. And then you got Shaden Sharp still there. And then maybe Scoot Henderson comes around in year 3 as well. Like, they have so many different pieces that I'm really excited to see how Chauncey Billups makes it all work and blend. Now, I don't have them like guaranteed being in the playoff team, but I do believe they're going to be pushing a lot of teams in the play-in area, and they'll be ahead of schedule. And I think they're going to catch a lot of people off guard with just how good they're going to end up being this year, especially because of their defensive ceiling. So I'm really excited to watch them.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I think that is their defensive ceiling is going to be really good. What do you think as far as like what team do you think is going to take a massive step back? And not like the Celtics and the Pacers because of injuries, of course, but like what team do you think is at risk of taking a step back this year other than those teams?
Yeah, there's always one. The biggest step back, I guess I'll go a little controversial here. There's a step back. I think OKC still is the number 1 seed. They still win 60-plus games. I think the biggest step back is there's a route where they don't make it out of the second round next year, depending on if they run into Denver or run into Houston. I think for me, there's a real world where the conference finals next year are Denver and the Rockets. And I think Denver for sure can beat them. I think they feel very confident going into that series, given where they were last year. I think the Rockets, it's gonna take a lot from Alperen Şengün, in terms of his scoring and his touch and all that. Kevin Durant's gonna need to be great. Fred VanVleet. I mean, the roster really needs to get solid, but in terms of who could take the biggest step back from winning an NBA championship, going 16-7 last year, to then not getting past the second round, similar to Denver in 2024. I think it could be the Thunder from a championship perspective.
Okay. That makes sense. I can feel where you're coming from there. Thunder not making it out the second round would be crazy, but the way you just laid that out, because I do believe in Denver and the depth that they added this year. I think Denver's going to be definitely a championship contender this year. And I'm not just saying that because you're my co-host on the show. Like, I really believe in what they did with the roster. I think they were very smart in adding the depth that you guys basically have been missing since you won a title and started losing depth pieces. So that's going to be a fun team to watch too. Yeah, as far as teams taking a step back, honestly, and I know this is probably gonna blow up, it's probably the Cleveland Cavaliers. And I just mean in the sense, much like you, like, I'm not saying, I think they paced themselves better. They dealt with injuries last year. I think that they realized, like, we don't have to try to win 62 games this season. Like, let's get home court advantage throughout most of the playoffs, and let's just pace ourselves better. So I think from a win-loss standpoint, they could take a bit of a step back. I still think they're going to be very potent during the regular season. But I think they're going to be kind of eyeing themselves to be as healthy as possible by the playoffs, especially with how their season ended last year.
Yeah, that'd be interesting. Garland, Mitchell, DeAndre Hunter, Evan Mobley, Jared Allen, Dean Wade. Let me make sure. Cavs. I think the problem is, bro, they're so deep, and the East is like so mid that Sam Merrill, they're still going to have Isaac Okoro. Like, they're still going to have, like, in terms of just from a roster standpoint.
But they don't have Okoro anymore. They got
that's right.
Ball,
yeah. So I'm just, I guess, looking at this roster, like, I think they're going to still have so many options to tap into, man. If they're healthy, bro, they're probably going to be a top 2-3 offense at worst again next year, man. And then it just depends on who they're playing. But step back as in, hey, lose in the first round. If you told me the 76ers were fully healthy by April and they were the 8th seed,
the 76ers, that's going to be a fun team to see how this goes, because, like, if they have another year like last year, I just wonder how much they're going to still avoid, like, doing the inevitable and maybe considering moving Joel Embiid. Like, I just don't know. We'll see how the season goes, because you know, if he's healthy enough, like that could still, like, they're going to be deep at the wing, deep at the guard position. But it's just, if Joel Embiid, Paul George, if those guys aren't healthy, it could be another ugly season for them.
Yeah, I mean, he's making 57, 62, and then there's a player option for 67 coming up. So finding how to move that money, that will be the difficult part in this new CBA.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Anything left, Swipe, before we get out of here, man?
No, just 2 more Mondays, 2 more, and then 1 more Friday for us until we get to media day.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I can't wait for that. And we actually got some basketball stuff to talk about. Preseason games start shortly there after that. So we're going to be talking about basketball real soon. But guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Make sure you guys go and support Swiper over at Locked On Nuggets. You can check me out over at Locked On Bulls. We're both there every single day. Locked On NBA is available on every podcasting app and platform of your choice, as well as YouTube, the Odyssey app, Amazon Fire TV, Roku TV, Fubo TV. You have no excuse. If you want to see Locked On NBA, you have no excuse not to see us. We'll see you guys next week, y'all. Peace.